Hi, welcome to the Virtual Propane Expo, and today we're having a really cool interview with Paul Roop. He is an executive from Card Connect, been working with the fuels industry, propane delivery and oil delivery for how long, Paul? So 25 years?
No, since 1989.
Okay, that's a little more than 25 years. That's a little more than 30 years.
Yeah, I've been
So
actually selling software and merchant processing since 1989.
awesome. Okay, so that's 31 years. And the purpose of this presentation is to talk about how can we as fuel delivery companies, how can we reduce our costs, and what are some of the things we need to look at from a credit card processing perspective to reduce our costs, increase and ensure that we're in compliance and things like that. And Paul's an expert on that. So Paul, thanks a lot for being here with Card Connect. We have questions for you as an industry. First, tell us a little about yourself, how much experience you have in working with fuel companies, how many fuel companies you've worked with over the years, and from a software perspective, and how many you've worked with from a credit card perspective and a card processing perspective.
Okay, well, hey, thanks, Bill. I appreciate the introduction. I've been selling merchant processing since, as I said, 1989. Originally, I was a software salesperson selling a accounts receivable, accounts management solution for forecasting, gas check, and such. But when I would be selling a software solution, I would also talk about operational efficiencies, which led to credit card processing and such. And back in those days, it was mostly a terminal operation, and there wasn't utility pricing at the time for propane dealers. So it was mostly a retail environment for people to use a physical box machine to process a credit card payment, which now is morphed into utility pricing for propane and petroleum dealers specifically, which affords propane dealers the very best pricing that you can get in the merchant processing industry. MasterCard, Discover, and Visa back in, I'd say, about 2002 came out with utility pricing, which really allowed propane dealers to be operationally very efficient in taking card not present transactions. One of the things they did is they basically said it doesn't matter whether or not you process the payment online, you process the payment through a mail order or telephone order, or you swipe the transaction. We're still giving you the very best rate. And that's a huge savings in this industry, because in other retail industries, when you process a payment online, you're paying about 1/3% higher rate than you get when you process, as a propane or a utility company.
Okay, but no, you're starting to get into some of the meat. I want to ask you, how many years have you been doing the credit card stuff? How many companies have you helped with the
Okay,
credit card payment processing?
I would say overall, I've helped over 1,000 propane dealers, fuel oil companies process their credit card payments.
So that's a lot. So
Yeah.
first thing I want everybody to know is Paul has helped over 1,000 oil and propane companies personally set up their credit card payment processing, and has done this many, many, many different ways. So first, we're talking to an expert here in credit card payment processing. And one of the reasons he's on this is because all of us in the fuels industry need to know there's so many different terms and so many complications, overcomplications of the whole credit card payment processing deal. And all of us in the fuels industry look at our bottom line P&L and say, holy cow, how much money are we spending on this particular line item? It's shocking sometimes. And so, Paul, from the perspective of the fuel dealers, what are the four or five things that fuel dealers need to look at when reviewing their costs associated with credit card payment processing?
Great question, Bill. Every single time I get the opportunity to evaluate somebody's credit card statement or talk in general about credit card processing, I keep it very simple, because the credit card business is a very simple business as long as you understand how to set the client up. And first of all, that's probably the number one ingredient, making sure that MasterCard and Discover are set up correctly as a utility, and making sure that Visa is configured correctly as an emerging market. Many processors will set MasterCard as a priority because their processing systems don't allow for doing both MasterCard Discover and Visa with the very best rates. Give you a perfect example. There's a processing environment out there that they can't do this. Now Fiserv, which is wholly owns Card Connect, has a platform that allows the propane dealer to have the very best rates. Other platforms don't allow this. But the key, Bill, in any merchant statement you look at is the discount rate, or what's called the markup rate. When you're looking at your statement, if you look down your statement under summary of card fees, you'll find the word either discount, in which case you might see a 0.001 or 0.002, which would mean 10 basis points, 20 basis points, 0.1%, 0.2% over cost. That's the rate, the discount rate in fancy terms, is just the commission rate that the merchant provider makes for processing your payment. The other ingredient to look at in the summary of card fees is your authorization or your transaction rate. Your authorization rate can be anywhere from a nickel to 20 cents per transaction, and that's an important factor. The third thing I'd say, Bill, is to look at AVS. What is the customer charging for address verification? Why is address verification important? Well, it's important, Bill, because the AVS tells you whether or not that card that you just took through your back office software provider or directly through the virtual terminal, it belongs to the person who gave it to you. And that's a great fraud prevention tool that I think is important. And generally speaking, processors will charge anywhere from a penny to a nickel for that service. And it's something that I teach every propane dealer that they should be looking at in their reporting tools. And I would say the other thing is just that, the reporting tools to know what types of cards that your customers are giving you. Like, for example, with Card Connect, I can give every one of our merchants a detailed list of every card that their customer has given, whether it's a Visa Signature Preferred card, which has a very high rate, or a Visa debit card, which drawn on a large bank might have a small rate, let's say 0.05% and 22 cents per transaction. But to give you the nuts and bolts here, Bill, it really boils down to authorization or transaction rate and discount rate. There are things that should never be on a credit card statement.
So hold on. We'll
Okay.
get to those.
Okay.
So there's four main things.
Yep.
One is the discount rate, which could be, like I said, 10 basis points or 20 basis points.
Yep.
10 basis points being 0.0001, 20 basis point 0.0002.
Right.
So that's one fee that's on top of the credit card fee. That is something, and the baseline credit card fee is something we can't change. It's something that the MasterCard, Visa, whatever, they are going to charge something for their services.
Correct.
And then we have this discount rate, and then we have a transaction fee. So every time there's a transaction, there could be a nickel, a quarter for that transaction. And then there's the AVS, which is the verification of address, right? So there's a small fee for that potentially. And then there's potentially another fee for other services. Is that right?
Correct. Mostly reporting and or statement analysis.
Okay. And then there could be another fee for maybe an annual fee of some sort for.
Well, there could be PCI compliance fee. It's either done monthly or annually, and it's basically a service provided from organizations such as Biometrics or TrustWave, to name two, that will be responsible to the card brands for making sure that the merchant, in this case the propane dealer, is staying compliant with the payment security process.
Okay, because one of the things you said, maybe half of the fuel, well, I'll ask you, you talk with hundreds and thousands of fuel companies. Today, in today's world, in the propane industry, what percentage of propane companies are aware that there's a utility rate, which is a lower cost for credit cards as compared to non-utility rate? What percentage do you think are taking advantage of the utility rate right now in the propane space?
Say propane dealers are incredibly educated. So I'm going to say at least 80% are aware they're getting a utility type rate. The question really comes down to whether or not the way that the merchant processor has set them up so that they can get both the best MasterCard Discover rate and the best Visa rate.
Okay, so first, for everyone listening, number one, you got to make sure you're on the utility rate. Number two, you have to make sure you're getting the best MasterCard and Visa rate. Okay, so next, there's the 4 fees. Make sure those 4 fees, you want to write down those 4 fees, make sure you know what those 4 fees are. You want to know what your fees and stuff are right now, your rates, so if you do compare, you can compare apples to apples, right? And and I'll even say there's that fifth one, that the fifth is that PCI compliance, maybe, right?
Well, that is true, but their builders, one more thing. Most propane dealers today are using a gateway, and that gateway can be anything from authorized.net, network merchants, or the CardPoint platform that we use. Those gateway fees can be profit centers for them, can be profit centers for the merchant provider. At Car Connect, we don't charge a cent for processing a credit card on our virtual gateway, nor do we charge for the vaulting of that credit card. The other payment gateways, I'll give you an example like network merchants or authorized.net, charge for the tokenization and the vault storage of that credit card data. It's a big profit center for some of the merchant processes out there. I've never felt personally that the propane dealer should be charged for gateway services. However, some of my competitors do use that as an additional item to charge for.
All right. So those are the fees we need to be aware of. And then there's the additional potentiality of different rates on different cards. So that makes things a little bit more convoluted. So when we're comparing things, we need to compare apples to apples, and we need to make sure that we understand what rates would be charged per card. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Next, Paul, because you were in the software business in our industry for over a decade or two decades, and you've been doing this credit card thing for, is it 20 years for the credit card side or 25 years?
Literally, Bill, all I've been doing for 30 years is focusing on the petroleum sector, propane, fuel oil, and so forth.
Okay. All right. Great. So from the software perspective, is there a way to programmatically use software programming to do maybe a little background magic to help make sure that the propane and oil, the petroleum delivery companies, are getting the best rates from a programmatic perspective?
I think what you're referring to, Bill, is called passing data through the API, application program interface, with all the data necessary. See, Visa and MasterCard have a game they play, and that game is, are we receiving all the data possible to give the merchant the best possible rates? These are called level 2 and level 3 processing in our terms. And level 2 basically means, are you passing a customer account number? Are you passing a sales tax field? Are you passing the billing address and zip code, just to name a couple features that they're passing? What CardPoint, which is our virtual payment gateway, does is we pass all of the data for the clients. When you look at one of my customers' credit card processing statements, you'll see if they do any business type of card, my clients are receiving up to about 0.6% better rate than if they're not passing that credit card data. Even better than the retail swipe rate, because that's what's called level 2 processing, and level 2 saves the propane dealer money. And that's a little bit of a trick to the credit card processing thing, and that's where CardPoint, our gateway, excels. Other gateways don't do this natively. We do it.
Okay, so I wouldn't suggest that is the reason why one of the largest propane companies in the world uses this solution, but that might be one of many reasons why the largest propane company in the world uses your solution. Is that correct?
I would guess, I would say that. That along with the reporting analytics that CardPoint provides are bar none the best in the industry.
Okay, so there's a lot of options out there, and there's a lot of good companies out there, and a lot of them have our industry's best interests at heart, and a lot of them don't. And so it's important for my viewers to be able to know the five different fees, five different fees that are out there, that there is the potential to get lots of different types of reporting. That's important, but also to be able to have a system that's already built, which you're calling your CardPoint system, that has the ability to programmatically make sure they're getting the best rates based on the information. So in essence, it sounds like the credit card companies decrease the overall cost because there's less chance for fraud if they get tons of information about this particular customer, right?
Yes.
There's more chance that they can collect. Okay, good.
Yes.
All right. So that's the difference between level 2 and level 3 and stuff. All right, great. So next, what do you see taking place in the petroleum industry, since you're connected into it, this is what you do. What do you see changing in this space that either our viewers need to be aware of to protect themselves, or maybe this is the second question, what they need to be aware of that are opportunities for them in this new digital world we're in, and what's changing in this area?
Well, I'm going to say that it used to be e-commerce web processing, but today, if you're not pushing two things, one, as a propane company, if you're not pushing smarter invoicing, where you can actually send out an invoice and a link back to a website or a link back to a mobile technology, you're probably not taking advantage of some of the important technologies that are being offered today. And that's something that Card Connect does extremely well. I'll also say that, having worked extensively with e-commerce and back office software providers, in fact, probably nearly all of them I know intimately, the integration process is important. The proving out of statements and analyzing your data, incredibly important. But as far as technology is concerned, Bill, we're in a most people today are in a card not present environment. So the risk taking that transaction over the phone or through an e-commerce portal, that's paying attention to all the fraud tools that we provide, as well as what the CardPoint gateway can do for you is really important. But I'm going to say the number one technological feature that people should be using should be mobile technology. If I was consulting to a propane company today, I would be telling every propane dealer, invest in mobile technology. We are constantly looking at our phones. It's rare a second goes by when I'm not even looking at my phone for some kind of message or Twitter or some kind of contact from one of my customers, text, email, so forth. You need, every propane dealer should be investing in mobile technology. I know there's a product out there called the Custom Fuel app, for one, that enables the propane dealer to order propane directly from their mobile phone. Every propane dealer should be advertising that kind of mobile technology in their invoices, on their tickets, because if in a will call world, people are likely to download an app and be loyal to the app for processing payments. And that's a big key. So if people don't go to invest in these mobile apps, I think they're making a mistake, because everybody today, we're moving so quickly from a computer-based world to a mobile handheld world. And I just think that that's the one area, if I owned a propane company, I'd be definitely investing.
Okay, so everyone that's on this, I'm just going to suggest you go investigate this one thing. Go and look up the value of Apple today. What's its value, or the value of Google. So Apple does smartphones, obviously Google does Android smartphones. What is the value of these companies? What was their value 10 years ago? And that might be an indicator of of change going on in our culture and in our country. So if those, Paul, you and I both remember back when we were running, fuel companies had yellow pages. That was how
Yeah.
they advertised, right?
Yeah.
And then they transitioned to websites. Then they started doing web ordering. And then you're suggesting the next phase of their existence, the next evolution of our industry is a smartphone-based solution. And I think that we can see that in the food delivery, DoorDash, Uber Eats, that sort of thing. I mean, those are blowing up. They're growing, and that's a delivery business, right?
Absolutely, Bill.
It's a commodity delivery business.
Mhm.
Or Uber. Uber is a commodity delivery business. They just deliver people from point A to. So having an app to buy, to do payments and purchase your stuff will help you get more sales. Just like having a website helps you get more sales. Just like advertising. Okay, good. So you're saying that there are solutions that can do the credit card payment processing through that, and then what do these fuel delivery companies that are listening here, what do they need to look at when they're looking at either building their own app or getting an app that's already built? What kind of credit card payment processing stuff do they need inside of that, or should they be aware of so they make a good decision?
For the propane dealer, just going with a company that has, from a mobile technology perspective, like Custom Fuel App, is making sure that the API, again, as I mentioned before, the application program interface, is perfectly written for not only charging but refunding. And number two, for making sure that the technology behind the mobile app is processing the payment with the very best rates possible. And that's where I think I've worked with a number of e-commerce developers in making sure that they've written their API integrations specifically to the CardPoint mobile technology to take advantage of a number of benefits, including offering promo codes through their mobile app and so forth. I would tell every propane dealer I spoke to, there are a number of tools out there. Card Connect provides so much technology if somebody wants to embrace that, whether it's mobilely or through their web or through their web page. But if I'm a propane dealer today, Bill, gotta have a mobile app, period.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. I mean, that's how Amazon, if Amazon's doing it, I would do it, right? And Amazon is just a delivery business. They took the Sears Roebuck's catalog, turned it into a website. They started selling crap. Now they're selling it through a smartphone, but they deliver stuff. They're a commodity delivery business on steroids, right? Okay, so our fuels industry, Paul, they want easy,
Yep.
right? And they want the least cost and easy, right? So how do they make sure they're getting the easiest thing and the lowest cost? Well, we talked about the lowest cost, the
Yeah, well,
five different.
Bill, sorry to interrupt you, but I haven't seen a statement that haven't been able to save somebody money. Every single statement I have ever seen, I've always been able to save money. Why? Because one, I've been in this industry a long time, probably have the very best rate structure that I can offer to my clients. Two, I have the best technology for making this happen, whether it's invoice presentment or mobile technology. I've contacted people to write interfaces to our platform, which, as I mentioned before, we're owned by Fiserv, and Fiserv is probably the largest payment processor in the country.
Okay, so your company is one of the largest payment processing companies in the country. They service one of, if not the largest propane company in the world. So I would suggest that when we hear that, we just need to know that the largest companies have more money to do all the background checking and just do the whole proctology exam to figure out which company they're going to go with. They probably put a dozen or 24 people on this project to figure out which credit card payment process they're going to use. I've seen it in software. I've seen the decision-making process. It's extensive. So, but the 1,000 fuel delivery companies you're working with, what are their typical sizes? What's the range of size? How many trucks to how many trucks? What's the range of size of companies you work with?
Bill and I work with propane companies that have one bobtail up to 100 bobtails.
Okay,
So
so the whole range.
the whole gamut. And specifically, what I do, Bill, is not very difficult. It's a very simple business. Okay, it's providing the technology, helping the client achieve PCI compliance so that they're in line with the card payment brands, and just setting up, whether you're a one truck propane dealer, right, or 100 truck, it's simply about discount rate, transaction fee, AVS, and reporting tools. It doesn't really get any simpler than that. I just happen to specifically focus in the propane and petroleum sector and understand all the technologies, both web-based and mobile, to help clients save money.
Okay, but some companies are set up great and they don't need to make any changes. Some companies might need a little tune up or like a checkup, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I go to the doctor to get a checkup, so maybe some companies need a checkup on this sort of thing. What is the average? What is the potential savings opportunity that fuel companies could potentially have by getting a checkup on their credit card statement?
Everybody should do an annual checkup with their merchant provider every year. My clients are guaranteed that when I set them up, the rate I set them up with will be the highest it possibly can. The more their volume goes up, the lower their fee structure goes. In many industries, you buy 100 gallons of a product, you get certain rate. Buy 150 gallons, you get a little bit better pricing. For me, I set people up with a fair processing platform so that the technology that we're providing helps the customer retain operational efficiency. And the only thing I'll say additionally, Bill, is the biggest thing that propane companies don't look at is all the extra things that they don't think about because companies don't advertise the virtual gateway costs of the storage and the processing of the credit cards. And that's why everybody who integrates with me, whether it's authorized.net or NMI, if they're using that because their software provider makes them use that, and that's fine by me. But when I have a solution to bring to a client that is an incredibly sound, efficient, interchange optimized solution that Card Connect offers, called their CardPoint solution, including our CardPoint mobile solution, and we charge no transaction fees for it, Bill. It's hard for me to look a client in the eyes and say, hey, I know you're paying $100 a month to use authorized.net or NMI, and I could be saving you that money. Unfortunately, the software companies, the back office software companies, have already written some of these interfaces. So that presents the biggest challenge for me when I'm really trying to help customers save money. So I'm always telling the software companies different technologies that they could write to help save their clients money.
Okay, so this is a critical little thing that I don't think many people know. Okay, I'm going to go where no one wants me to go. But the software companies that serve our industry, some of them have connections to multiple choices for credit card processors, which then gives their customers more options, more ability to compare and contrast and use those. But what you're saying is if that software company doesn't have an API connected to that credit card processor, that the users of that software could be held hostage to just one credit card processor or just two, and that might not be the best price or best option for them in the marketplace.
Right, correct.
Okay, let me go a little step further. And maybe you can't answer this, but I've heard that some of the salespeople that sells different software platforms out there, that they recommend different credit card processors in the basket of credit card options that are in their software. They might recommend certain ones because they're getting a spiff, they're getting a kickback for recommending that, not because really it might be the best thing for the fuel delivery company. Is that right?
I can actually comment on this to some degree to say that if you're a propane company, you really should be going to your software provider and making sure that they are providing you with not only the highest quality merchant services, but that they try to remain as agnostic as they possibly can be and providing you virtual payment choices that help drive your bottom line. If I told you that nearly every credit card statement I see, Bill, I'm saving somebody 30 cents per transaction, I'm not understating that. Let's suppose somebody has a $300 propane ticket and I save you 0.1%, I'm saving you 30 cents per transaction just by switching your processing to me.
Okay, so if you do 100,000 transactions
Mm-hmm.
times 30 cents, that would be $30,000. Really? That's what it was. Okay, so there's opportunity to save some money. That's an annual basis. Okay, Paul, so there's opportunity to save. You can, what would you offer the audience to help them as far as a checkup or something like that?
Well, I think one of the things that makes me more unique than anybody else is the tools I have to offer clients. Clients always ask me, hey, Paul, how can we lower our credit card fees? And I can give them a customer by customer breakdown of what types of cards the customers are using, whether they're hotel cards, whether they're cashback cards, whether they're debit cards, and I can give them an analytical tools for looking at the operational costs for their business. And I think that's important because I'd much prefer if I was a propane company to push MasterCard, Discover, and Visa debit over Visa credit. It's about a 4 cent, 5 cent margin difference per gallon to push MasterCard, Discover, and Visa debit over Visa credit.
Okay, so there's tricks. So
Yep.
here's the deal. There's tricks and tips for how to reduce your overall costs. There's a checkup that Paul can give to you. Just to review. I've heard that it's from other venues and also from running fuel companies to review this annually to make sure nothing's changed and you didn't know about it. So here's what I'm going to offer everyone. So at the Virtual Propane Expo, you go to the exhibitors, all exhibitors, click there. And once you're there, you can type in Card Connect right here, CARDCON. There it is, Card Connect. Go to the Card Connect booth. Once at the Card Connect booth, you can get a little bit more information. But most importantly, what Paul is recommending is that you connect. Have him look at the five fees you need reviewed. Make sure that they're legit. Make sure they're good. Make sure that you're taking the best opportunity at this time of year to go and review this sort of thing and make sure that you're ready for the money season that's coming up. So, hey,
Yeah.
we're going to wrap up there, Paul. Paul, I know you, having worked with thousands of companies, you have other tips and ideas and suggestions, and maybe we'll have you back on for a follow-up. But thanks a lot for being here. So everyone at the Virtual Propane Expo, thanks for being here. This is Paul Roop with Card Connect, and here's how you can see their booth right here, all on Virtual Propane Expo. Really easy to connect in with him and get some more information and get a tune-up. Get it like an annual physical, but this is for your credit card processing.
Great statement.
Awesome. Hey, thanks a lot, Paul. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you.